Hello and welcome back to Millar'S Movers, the final episode before the start of the Cheltenham Festival. And as we have with the last few weeks, we've got a special guest in Kielan Woods, twice winner of the Grand Angle in the last 5 years. He's going to talk us through his rides for the week, a couple of his thoughts about how Cheltenham might pan out, so stay tuned for that. But we'll start with a look back at the weekend, and it was a good weekend of racing, but maybe a little bit quieter, giving us a chance to see our families, catch up with a bit of work before we completely abandon all grown-up activities and focus fully on the Cheltenham Festival. Kelso took centre stage, really. I thought personal ambition for Ben Pauling was clearly showed he's got a big engine in winning the Grade 2 novice hurdle up there. He didn't jump very well at all, so the fact he was still able to dominate that race and win shows he's a horse of immense potential, as has Ben got a lot of smart novice hurdlers. Supporters of Nicky Henderson will be pleased to see that Django Bay certainly finished his race off. A little bit of a patchy sort of weekend for Nicky again, but they'll be pleased to see Django Bay finish his race off, and he also had a very impressive winner down at Newbury who won off a £10 higher mark. So things perhaps starting to look up a little bit in terms of the health of the Nicky Henderson horses. Thunder Rock was obviously my personal highlight, tipped him up on the SBK podcast, took the abuse from Jess Stafford, and I can understand why. He is a frustrating horse to follow, but my theory that he's best in small fields appears to be sort of ringing true. He jumped very, very well. I mean, if you compare the horse that couldn't jump at all at Cheltenham in the Paddy Power Gold Cup to the horse that jumped beautifully round here, he's just a different kettle of fish in a small field. I thought it was an incredibly brave ride by Sean Bowen as well, especially in light of the fact that he spoke after the race how his confidence had taken a little bit of a knock. He'd ridden a lot of seconds. Sean, I don't know all that well, but I've seen him around the Welsh point-to-point circuit. He strikes me as a sort of unflappable character, so it does show the immense pressure. Both he and I suspect Harry Cobden under as they're fighting it out for the Jockeys Championship, but he was ever so cool on Thunder Rock, waited, and then clearly very confident. He had plenty of horse underneath him, took it up, turning in, and Thunder Rock stayed very, very powerfully. Talk now of moving on to the Aintree Bowl. I think that would be an interesting move. Flat track, good ground, no doubt a small field. I'll look at it again close to the time, but I can certainly see the appeal of Thunder Rock in that. And the feature race of the day, the Moor Battle Hurdle, good to see that staying in Scotland. Kraken Rhapsody and Ewan Willens, who's won it as a jockey, now won it as a trainer. Scotland often doesn't get the time and media focus that obviously racing in England and Ireland gets. So it's great when they have their feature race today that it stays in Scotland. Plenty of focus on some talented Scottish trainers and some decent horsepower up in Scotland as well. So we'll start as ever with the handicap movers and shakers, the usual format, going up, going down, non-movers and new entries. And we have something in every single section this week. The first horse I want to talk about is a nice mare of Nigel Twiston-Davies. The Potters own her, Strong Belle by Blue Brazil. She's been quite a slow burner. She's perhaps been a little bit disappointing on one or two occasions, but I liked how she finished her race off at Bangor on heavy ground, over 2 miles. She saw it out well, she travelled well, and she crucially jumped far better than she had on previous occasions. She actually won this as a maiden, off a mark of 107 was her official mark before then. She's gone up £2 to a mark of 109, but given how much improvement she's shown, I think if she moves into handicaps now, she's the sort of horse that could run up a sequence if well placed. She'll certainly stay further. She will act on soft ground, but I see no reason why she won't handle better ground, provided she's given enough of a stamina test. So Strong Belle for the Twiston-Davies, off a mark of 109, up just £2 for, I thought, a good win at Bangor, is first one on the list. Another mare now, Della Casa Lunga, who's trained by Clive Bultby Brooks, formerly an owner with Tom Lacey. This mare sprung a bit of a surprise at Ludlow on a penultimate start, winning at 18-1. But she showed that was no fluke, winning again off a £6 higher mark, again at Ludlow, again on soft ground. She's now, though, gone up £10. That's a £16 rise in 2 runs. And I think the percentage call will be to oppose her next time. She clearly goes well at Ludlow. She clearly goes well on soft ground. But the chance of having those two scenarios now as we head into the spring are going to become slimmer. She's probably going to have to look elsewhere. Might well get different ground conditions. Clearly a talented mare, but I would be opposing Casa del Lunga away from Ludlow and soft ground off a £16 higher mark in the last 2 runs. A horse that certainly likes soft ground was Tanganyika, who won for Venetia Williams at Newbury at the weekend. Very enterprising ride from Charlie Deutsch off the front, never looked back, made plenty of running, and I suspect those in behind him slightly misjudged whether he was going to come back to them, stayed on very powerfully. It's gone up now £7 to a mark of 124. This performance was somewhat of an outlier across his general form. Struggled really beyond a mark of 115 and 116 previously. Won this off 117, but like I say, I think this needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. He got the run of the race. I think perhaps a few beaten jockeys might do things differently if given another chance. So Takangaya for Venetia Williams, for all that she is coming back into form, is a horse that I would look to oppose next time. A horse that I will definitely want to be with next time is Homme Public, who won for the Green Horse. He's got a really good race record, this horse. 7 wins from 21 starts and an excellent chase record. This is now his 3rd win from just 4 chase starts. He was 2nd on the only other occasion. Really good ride by Henry Brook. Stayed on late, got up the inner. Gavin Sheehan on the runner-up, Rise on the Storm. He came in for plenty of criticising of a ride on another Richard Hobson horse, Sunscope, in the Grimthorpe Chase. Plenty of people thought that that was a race he should have won. I couldn't disagree more. I think if you're going to criticise Gavin Sheehan for a ride at Doncaster at the weekend, this would be the one. Jockey of his experience really should be getting Riders on the Storm across onto the rail, so anything that was challenging him had to come around him and take up more ground. As it was, he did give Henry Brook a chance to slingshot up the rail between him and get up to win. As for the ride on Sunscope, I won't digress too much, but this is clearly a talented young horse, but this was only his 4th chase start. He's clearly better on better ground. Soft ground here. I thought he ran a massive race, but it was very obvious to me going to the last that he was running on vapours. Gavin Sheehan was definitely trying to find a forward stride and it wasn't there, so he has 2 options: either to throw the young horse at the fence and potentially put him on the floor, or look after him and jump the last fence. Did lose the momentum, and I think you have to take into account that Does He Know is a dour stayer. David Bass is excellent at these front-running rides, saving a little bit up his sleeve for the finish, so I thought criticism of Gavin Sheehan on that ride was certainly misplaced. And one final one going up in the handicap is the Paul Nicholls trained, Harry Cobden ridden, Making Your Mind Up. He won a 3-mile chase at Newbury at the weekend on testing ground. Stayed really powerfully. He's gone up now £5 to a mark of 142. All his best form has come on soft ground, but he's got bits and bobs of form that doesn't look too bad on better ground. It's clearly stamina is his strong suit. He would be interesting to me if trying perhaps the Scottish National at Ayr or maybe the Bet365 at Sandown, provided there is a bit of cutting ground. Obviously, those are races that we tend to think of as good ground races, and that might well be the situation again this year. There's lots of rain around and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So a wet April, if there was a bit of cut in the ground for the Scottish National or the Bet365, Making Your Mind Up for Paul Nicholls off a mark of 142. I think this is a high-class horse in the making, would certainly be of interest. A few horses going down this week that caught my eye, and the first one is the Joe Tizard trained Defi Nonantais. He ran at Wincanton and actually carried my money first time in a handicap. I thought he was nicely handicapped on the pick of his best novice hurdle form. He had an opening mark of 102, and I could certainly have made a case that he was better than that. I was quite disappointed with his effort. He faded into 3rd, having looked set to challenge turning in, beaten about 18 lengths. But I was heartened to see afterwards that maybe I wasn't completely mad. I wasn't barking up the wrong tree. A respiratory problem was reported to the clerk of the scales. So he's been dropped £2 now, down to a mark of 99. I think that makes him of real interest if he gets his breathing rectified with a tongue tie or preferably a little operation wind-up. Defi Nonantais, I think, can definitely win races off a mark of just 99, particularly over trips of 2 mile 4 or further. He's a stayer in the making. Belle Civena is another filly that I think is a stayer in the making. She's been dropped £2 from a mark of 102. She was disappointing in Doncaster. She got badly outpaced up the home straight, but she did stick to her guns really pleasingly, rallied late on into 3rd, albeit beaten a fair distance, but that was quite a good race for the grade. I think she will definitely find races if stepped up in trip. This was 2 miles, just got hopelessly outpaced. Dam did all her best form over 2 mile 4, won over 2 mile 4, placed over 2 mile 6. So I think if Belle Civena goes up in trip for the Harry Derham Yard, a mark of 102 certainly looks workable. And then for me, one of the eye catchers of the weekend came in the Moor Battle Hurdle, the Donald McCain train Ballygeary. He travelled around in the Moor Battle Hurdle very, very nicely, right down on the inside rail, and then just didn't get the rub of the green when trying to challenge going towards the last. He switched to the inside, the horse in front of him hung across to the left, had to get snatched up, switched outside, and then one outside him came in on top of him. So he was unsighted going to the last hurdle, lost all momentum, and was then beaten a fair distance, but all chance had gone. He's been dropped £1 down to a mark of 118. I don't think he was going to win the More Battle Hurdle, but I certainly think he would have been in the first three. Mark of 118 would suggest to me that he's on a competitive mark and can land a little race this season. One new entry this week, and it's the Lucinda Russell trained I Wish You, who's been plying his trade in the new division of the junior novice hurdles. This, if you don't know, is for 4-year-olds, but with a jumps pedigree. They can't run on the flat. It's a really good initiative. It gives these young embryonic national hunt horses a chance over hurdles without running against perhaps speedier, more experienced horses off the flat. I Wish You is yet to win. He's bumped into a stablemate twice in a junior bumper and then a junior hurdle stablemate called Rocheval, who I think is a very smart horse. He then bumped into Reckless Eric, who lived up to his name. He's pretty reckless, the Ben Pauling train winner, ran all over the track, made plenty of jumping errors, but is clearly a talented horse. I Wish You, the complete opposite, very mature in how he goes through his race, jumped brilliantly apart from the last hurdle where he clipped the top and landed hind legs first and sort of lost his momentum. I think but for that mistake, he would have beaten the wayward Reckless Eric. But he's now got a mark of 107. I loved how he finished his race off, got his head down, ran very straight for a young horse. The thing with junior hurdles is they can go into their second season into open company amongst other novices. So you're essentially a novice for 2 seasons. It might well be that Lucinda Russell keeps him back for that. But he's got a mark now of 107. Given how mature he has looked for his young age, he would be of interest to me if they were to try handicap hurdles off a mark of 107. And then 2 non-movers for you to finish up with. Real Stone, well, both of these actually are for Dan Skelton. Real Stone, he absolutely took apart a handicap chase at Wetherby off a mark of 123 in November on soft ground, round a flat track like Wetherby. That does seem to be his bag, flat track, soft ground. Went up a good bit in the weights for that and has appeared to struggle. But he's had a wind operation. He came back at Newbury at the weekend, was ridden more patiently, looked to me to be ridden to finish his race off, and he did indeed. He really ran through the line, closed the winner right down as they came to the line. He's now down to a mark of 123. If that run has given him a bit of confidence in his breathing, I think he's certainly a horse that's on a winnable mark. He is entered at Hereford on Saturday. Be interesting if the ground comes up soft and the Skelton Yard roll the dice with him. He's the horse that I think can win again this season, but he does need soft ground and a flat track, so maybe time is running out for him. And then Sky Cutter was the other Skelton horse that caught my eye. He finished 3rd in the More Battle Hurdle, got outpaced and stayed on. This horse won at Carlisle on his penultimate start, over a stiff 2-mile one. His flat form is good and he stayed as far as 2 miles on the flat. I'm desperate to see this horse over further. The Skelton team do seem reluctant to do so. All of his hurdle runs for them so far have been at 2 miles. He stays on a mark of 121 for that More Battle third, where he got outpaced and just stuck to his guns right up the hill to the closing, to the finish line. I think this is a horse, if they can go up and trip a little bit, he won't get outpaced at that crucial point, and he does just stay very well, as he did when staying over 2 miles on the flat. So Sky Cut off mark of 121, definitely still on my radar if the Skelton team push him up in trip. I'm now delighted to be joined by Kielan Woods, who's returned to the track in flying form following his spell on the sidelines with his whip suspension. So Kielan, thanks very much for taking the time out to join us. Undoubtedly the most informed national hunt jockey in the UK at the moment. What is it, 3 from 5 since coming back? You must be really enjoying it.
Yeah, no, look, I've had a really good run since I've come back, thank God. I've got plenty of time to make up for. I've missed plenty while I was out, so it's nice to come back and hit the ground running.
Yeah, and I don't want to dwell on the band too much because, of course, everything with horses we've seen today is about looking forward. But I personally thought you took it with a great deal of good grace. I think there was, certainly I watched the Henry's Friend ride, which is ultimately the one that triggered the ban, and I looked at it and thought, wow, what a brilliant ride. And there was none of that, poor me. You were very open and honest. They're the rules, it's my issue, I've got to fix it. I noticed you mentioned the other day that you'd been sort of talking to Mick Fitzgerald, without going into too much detail, because obviously it's a thing that's personal to you. Is this something that you felt was a sort of mental thought process aspect in the finish, or was it more of a technique in terms of how you're using your whip?
I think for me it was probably, when I got banned the first time, it was technical. It was just for, using it too quick in the incorrect place. This time around I got done for numbers, so it was kind of 1 over, and then I had a 2 over, and that triggered the referral. And I think it was probably just the mental side of it really. I probably um, probably just trying a bit too hard later on in the race, and I look at it a little bit differently now. Since I've been banned, I've obviously had plenty of time to reflect on it, and I've spoken to plenty of people like Mick Fitzgerald, and spent a lot of time with George Baker, who needs no introduction. He was an unbelievable flat jockey in his own right. So yeah, spent plenty of time with him. And yeah, it was just literally, trying not to. I was never using my whip over too much, just to what do I say? Trying. I've never used it too much to kind of make me go faster. It's just bad habit of using it too much, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. I mean, sure, never a good time to be away from the action, but new baby, so I'm sure you've got plenty of nappy changing. You've got nappy changing quota up ready for the summer of sport that we're all going to have, so you can sort of pull a few sickies there. And I've seen you been out jumping. The video I saw of you jumping huge, great 5-bar gates on your horse. I mean, clearly just horse mad, back at the right time now, kicking on into the Cheltenham Festival. And I suppose we should take a good look at your rides. Opening race of the day, you've got Della the Name, who actually was mentioned to me by Lucy Jackson, who runs your boss Ben Pauling's sort of satellite yard nursery school, if you like. And she said she thought he was one of the nicest horses that had come through her hands. And she said at the time, I don't know if he can run fast, but he's a really lovely athletic horse. I've seen in interviews that you clearly love this horse. What is it about him you love so much? I mean, obviously on the bare form, he's got to step up. He was only narrowly beaten at Ascot. That was a very good run first time out. He's won Huntingdon twice, either side of disappointing at Aintree. But I heard plenty of people say that the ground at Aintree was as bad as they've ever ridden on. Was that sort of what you put that run in the Formby down to?
Yeah, I think so. It was just, it was very, very gluey ground that day, and it was deep gluey ground as well. It wasn't nice to ride on. And I don't think the horse appreciated it at all. And it was very disappointing, but in a way it wasn't that disappointing because we were beat coming by the stands the first time. So it wasn't as if he jumped the last and looked like he had a chance and then got beat, and then we would have been really disappointed. But look, he was beat too far out from home to get too upset about. And he obviously came out that well, and thankfully he went and won 2 weeks later in Huntington on a bit of nicer ground, and there was no ill effect from Aintree, which was brilliant. So look, we're just putting it down to the ground that day, and he seems brilliant for him every day since. So.
And you clearly believe he's up to a race this nature. I mean, obviously, Ballyburn. I mean, as of today, the markets are suggesting he might well go for the Bear in Bingham, which would perhaps make the Supreme Court more open. But you clearly are convinced this is a horse that can shake them up, whether he's there or not.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. I wouldn't want too much rain about. That would be the only thing. So hopefully it kind of dries out a little bit. He's just a very good horse. He's very naturally fast. He's got good brain on him. He's a good jumper. Doesn't get too excited about the whole situation. He's just very straightforward. So I can't see any of the prelims or anything like that being a problem to him. And he's easy ride in the fact that he can go forward. You could follow one or two. It doesn't really matter what you do on him. So. I think he's very good. Hoping he's the best I've set on to date anyway. So and hopefully he might be able to show us that in Cheltenham.
And just picking up on that on temperament. I mean, I've been to Cheltenham. I've been to a few race meetings. Just in terms of the atmosphere, particularly I suppose for the young horses, which they obviously are in the Supreme. Is it comparable to any other sort of atmosphere that you come across in a season, or is it as unique as we sort of portray it to be?
Yeah, I think it's very unique, and look, some young horses can melt big time, and it can be the difference in winning and losing a race. I don't think we'll see any problems like that with him. He's very chilled out, so he is, and as I said, he's got a good brain on him, and he takes everything in. So fingers crossed he'll be all right there.
And then another, I mean, Ben's got an incredible team of young novices and bumper horses indeed. One that you haven't ridden on the track, but it does sort of come onto my radar for the Bear in Bingham, having tipped him up when he won the City Banks, his handstands. My concern for him would have been that he only won his point-to-point in October. He's done an awful lot in a short space of time, and I wondered whether he looks a big sort of embryonic chaser, whether he's perhaps robust enough for the sort of rigmaroles of a Cheltenham Festival race, let alone a Grade 1 novice. Have you seen anything at home that you could sort of persuade me that I'm wrong and actually sort of got the constitution that might just suit this sort of test?
No, I have sat in him a few times at home. He's probably not the easiest horse to judge at home because he's not that flash, so he's kind of just does what he has to do. He does his work. He seems fairly straightforward from what I've seen of him on the race course. Yes, he has done a lot in a short space of time, and you could probably pick some holes in his form. To date, but his run last day in the Sydney Banks was good. It'd be interesting to see how he runs. Soft ground will probably suit him. I'd say he coped with it well up in Newcastle. So, he's an exciting horse. Whether he's exciting for this year or next year now is another thing.
Yeah, and one who will definitely like the soft ground is the Jukebox Man, who I imagine is going to step up in trip again, having run well in the Challow, finishing third, only just beaten him, I thought, staying on at the death. He's proven at Foss Last with 2 wins there that the more testing the ground isn't a problem to him. Conversely, going up in trip to 3 miles is going to make it a stamina test. Do you think at Foss Last it was the heavy ground turning it into a stamina test as opposed to the need for heavy ground under his feet that suits him? If the ground was better, would that be a problem for you?
I don't think it'd be a problem. I think it just probably he probably copes with it a lot better than other horses if it does get deep. I would love to see deep ground for him. I thought the run in the shallow hurdle was brilliant. It was a really true run race. We went good and hard, and we quickened up turning in, and it was a good old test the whole way to the line. He can hang a little bit left at the end of a race. I wish I challenged the winner on the other side the last day in the shallow and I had the rail. Whether that made a difference, I'm not sure, but I'd like to find out. I think Cheltenham will suit him. The stiff finish will suit him. He's a very good horse, and he's very straightforward. He's a brilliant jumper. He spot a stride on him 10 strides away. His ears pricked. He's looking at what he's doing. He's very straightforward as well in the fact that he's really good brain on him. He's really quiet, and he shouldn't get too upsetting on either prelims or anything like that. And really excited for him.
Brilliant, and a relaxed horse again, which I suppose for these stayers is just so essential.
So important. He races a little bit behind the bridle, which is brilliant. We'll be hoping that turns into an absolute dour test, and fingers crossed he might come up the hill in front.
And then I suppose the other high-class young horse is 6 Mile Bridge, who won a bumper at Sandown in impressive style first time out, which I always think takes a bit of doing on testing ground at Sandown. I saw Ben Pauling at the weekend say that he did that on a far from clean scope, should we say, and he's recently scoped clean. Unlike perhaps a couple of others you've mentioned, does this horse show his quality at home? Have you been excited about him since he came into the yard?
Yeah, he's been very, very impressive in everything he does. First time I sat in him, I schooled him, and I thought this is, I think we might have just found one here. Covers a lot of ground, so he does, with very minimal effort. Just a very nice horse, and I wasn't surprised in what he'd done in Sandown by any means. He'd been doing really strong bits of work, he's a lovely horse, and I heard Ben say the other day his track wash is clean, so that's brilliant, and he'd done a lovely bit of work around Kempton the other morning, worked really well. And fingers crossed he gets there, and his track wash is still clean and he's healthy, and I think we see a really good run from him.
And I think it's a bit more of an open bumper this year, isn't it? I mean, normally you are sort of going into the bumper and it's which one of Willie's 3 is Patrick going to ride, and that's going to be the short price favourite. It's perhaps not looking like that so much this year. I mean, I had a quick look through and I think there's a very even split of talent between the UK and Ireland this year.
I think so, yeah. It looks very wide open, doesn't it? He's very straightforward. You can ride him whatever way you want, I think, which is probably more so helps you in a race like that. Really looking forward to him.
And then another one, which I'm sure you are looking forward to, but I would understand if it perhaps came with a caveat. Is Harper's Brook looks like he's going for the Grand Annual. I mean, you're the form jockey in the Grand Annual, 2 wins in the last 5 years. First of all, can you see this test suiting him? As I think many can, sort of a fast run race where he perhaps doesn't have as much time to think, because he clearly seems to have improved for dropping back in trip.
Yeah, I think the drop back and trip has really suited him, hasn't it? You know, he's a brilliant jumper, so he is. Like, I don't think I've sat on a horse with as much scope as him. He's a very, very, very talented horse. He could lie up in the champion chase, this lad, and I wouldn't be surprised if he jumped the last, looking like he'd have a chance. It's just sneaking him into the race and keeping everything nice and smooth on him, and somehow getting down over the last and kind of getting to the line without getting too busy on him. Slower ground will probably suit him at Cheltenham because it'll slow things down a little bit. He'll really be able to travel in his comfort zone, and I expect a really big run from him every time he runs. It's just a couple of times he's made me look very silly, but hopefully he might just last home now this time. You never know.
And I mean, we hear a lot of people talk about, a horse getting its head in front will give it a lot of confidence. I mean, obviously he's got his head in front plenty of times and sort of essentially pulled himself up. Do you think for him going through with it and not getting passed back up the run-in, it's going to have any sort of effect, or am I sort of clutching at straws there for you?
Hopefully it helps. He got a rub of the green in Sandown, didn't he? So, and hopefully that stands him in good stead because he has won the race. But this horse he's that clever. Honestly, he'd nearly drive the horse box to the races. This lad, I don't think I've ever ridden anything like it. He done it with me in a novice hurdle in Exeter one day. Say I was 10 lengths clear turning in, and I was doing an absolute half speed, and I got by where we jumped off the 2 mile 3 start, and he's literally pulled up to a trot, and I thought when the horse comes behind me he'll go again, but he doesn't go again. When he stops, and that's it. But yeah, look, he usually massively talented horse, and as I said, for 3/4 of the race you'd have never set on anything like it. Jump, travel, covers the ground, just everything you'd want in a racehorse. It's just getting him from the back of the last to the winning line is the trick. But look, hopefully in a race like the Grand Annual, they go so hard, which they always do, and it turns into a bit of a test. And if he can still be in his comfort zone, turning in and just be still able to sit on him until you get over the last 2 fences, he got a chance.
Yeah, I mean, Cheltenham is exciting. The Grand Annual is exciting. I think he undoubtedly, for many people, adds another element to it because many eyes are going to be on him and sort of seeing what he can come up with up the hill. Those were the rides I could find for you, sort of looking through your sort of general associations. Have you got anything else that you're hoping to throw your leg over during the week?
A couple of potential ones, but nothing set in stone. So hopefully, I'm hopeful, but nothing set in stone yet.
Have saddlers available. And then just before I let you go, because you've been really generous with your time, 2 questions for you. If you were going to be offered a ride in the Gold Cup, is it as straightforward as just saying, yes, please, Galopin Des Champs, or can you see a potential upset?
I think Galopin Des Champs. Very hard for me to see him beat. I thought he was so impressive the last day in Leopardstown. He looks in a racehorse, and for a jockey to ride him, he looks everything you want, doesn't he? He jumps, he travels. He looks just a monster of a horse, and I think if he turns up in any way sort of form he has done the last couple of times, I think he's going to be very hard to beat. It was hard to see him beat.
And obviously, I know you wouldn't get off any of the novice hurdlers because you've got a nice book of those, but you're going to throw your leg over a novice chaser. Which one would it be? And to caveat this, because most of them have got multiple entries, I mean, it's a nightmare trying to figure out where they're going to go. Which novice chaser would it be, and which race would you want the connections to put him in for you?
I'm not sure. I would have said Marine National, but I see on the Racing Post headlines earlier on that he's sadly out injured for connections. God, I don't know. Some Willie trains anyway.
Well, look, Kielan, thanks very much for your time. I wish you all the best in the run up to Cheltenham, and then I hope you get the luck you deserve through the Cheltenham Festival, and very best of it.